The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, The Right Side with Doug Billings, your unfiltered dose of truth from the heartland, coming today, Thursday, October 23rd. We are ready. Trump's giving America cane sugar. Cane sugar farmers a boost. And the real thing, Coke, a retro comeback, ladies and gentlemen. The left continues their war on women's sports, and Fetterman is a rare Democrat with sanity amid Schumer's shutdown chaos. I'll expose all of this, plus tipping us off about a neocon possibility within the administration. The Right Side with Doug Billings is now upon you. Are you ready? Let's go.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Hey everybody, my name is General Mike Flynn, and I'm here to do a big shout out for my great friend and one of the best in the business, Mr. Doug Billings. Right Side with Doug Billings, Right Side with Doug Billings. Doug is the future of the airwaves when it comes to independent broadcasters and podcasters. He is the new Rush Limbaugh. He's exactly what America needs right now, looking for honesty, looking for wisdom, looking for truth, looking for patriotism. Listen to Doug Billings at Right Side with Doug Billings. God bless you and God bless America, and thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are winning. We're winning, winning, winning. Welcome to The Right Side with Doug Billings. Are you ready?
We are not liberal snowflakes who melt away in the face of tragedy, adversity, and challenge. We are a covenant nation under God, and his divine providence is not dead and it's not gone. It is living within each and every one of you. And you will bring it to life in such a way that the world has never seen before. We never back down. We never give up. We march forward.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Good to be here with you. It is another day, another shutdown day. we see this, and I am blown away. But we know this is the place where we're going to get the truth. We're going to think it through. We're going to talk about it. But also, I have to begin. There was just a great story. It's pure fluff. And I'm going to share it with you. This has nothing substantive to do with the state of play around the world, other than it is boosting an American classic and American farmers, specifically sugarcane farmers. So I would like to buy you a Coca-Cola, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, if you are old enough to remember the 1970s, or even not, the classic song, I Want to Buy You a Coke. I want to buy the world a Coke. Zach in the booth, we've got this little song, I think, queued up and ready to go. Just take a listen to what we enjoyed on Saturday morning television in the 70s.
I'd like to buy the world a home and furnish it with love.
Right before Scooby-Doo or whatever.
Trees and honeybees and snow white turtle doves. I like to teach
Trump.
the world to sing with me.
Teaching the world to sing in harmony. Buying the world a Coke. Oh, what in the world am I talking about? Yeah, so it is the 70s, and Trump, in true Trump fashion, you know he's the Coke guy, right? He likes Coca-Cola. So he, as you remember the 70s, leftover hippies, bell-bottoms, and Coke, that actually tasted like something that your grandma would approve of, right? But here's the kicker. The classic flavor of Coke, it's coming back. Trump's bringing it back. Sugarcane flavored Coke. We're getting rid of the cornstarch syrup, toxic cancer-causing nonsense that's been in it for a few decades now. So again, I got a kick out of the story. Don't know if you will, but President Donald J. Trump bringing Coca-Cola back. The king of soft drinks, the king of presidents, the king. Oh my gosh. Peddling the corn syrup slop was a bad deal. Bobby Kennedy's on board. Don't worry, he's not having a conniption fit somewhere in the East Wing in the temporary offices. The Republican Party remodels the East Wing. But it is funny. I got a kick out of it. Trump nudges the CEO in the company. He was saying on Truth Social, this was back in July, on Truth Social, he said, I've been speaking to Coca-Cola about using real cane sugar in Coke. And I'd like to thank all in authority because over at Coca-Cola because they've agreed to do so. This will be a very good move by them. You'll see. It's just better. Okay, that was Trump on Truth Social. Now, in seriousness, folks, it is an American first move. American sugarcane farmers. Have you ever traveled down through southern Texas, Louisiana, Florida, and seen the sugarcane farms down there? When I was in corporate America, I had to negotiate a collective bargaining agreement with a hospital in Louisiana, and took a weekend and drove down through southern Louisiana, and the sugar canes. It was just beautiful. They were harvesting. You could smell the sugar cane in the air. And so Trump taking care of our sugarcane farmers, Coke agreeing to experiment with a limited release at first of all of this, but taking the corn syrup out, putting real sugar in. I mention it only, it's really an America first move. I thought it was cute. I thought it was a little bit funny, but boom, Trump's out there wheeling and dealing, even with soft drink beverage makers, the art of the deal. And Big Soda apparently listening to President Trump. Okay. Now, the casual observer may never have noticed it, but and maybe say, Billings, what in the heck are you talking about? Why does this even matter? Well, it's America first in action. Coke ditched cane sugar in the 80s for the cheaper high fructose corn syrup and big ag subsidies that were propped up from corn farmers while tariffs were jacking up sugar prices. So, I'm not saying cane sugar is healthy. It's sugar. You got to be careful, but it's better to a degree than corn syrup. So therefore, Bobby Kennedy not throwing a fit over there. It was something else. I got a kick out of it. So, and don't get me started, because I see on my own personal feed over here, I see, well, what about Mexican Coke? They've been smuggling Mexican Coke because it's always been made. I know it's always been made they always made it with cane sugar down in Mexico. I don't know the rubrics and the reasons, and they would smuggle it up. And so, but it was contraband, and they paid a premium price for it. I'll tell you that. Yeah. The kids down on spring break in Matamoros, back when you could go there, as just south of Brownsville on a safe excursion on your spring break, but you can't do that anymore. All right. So Trump has fixed that. Let's dig in. Let's dig in. You can imagine the things that I have thought about with regards to what to talk about today. There's so much in Minnesota. The Supreme Court, we're going to get to this. The attack on women's sports continues. And I want to talk about later in the show about the Venezuelan issue again, but with a different spin, because I'm a little bit worried about that. A little bit worried that the neocon leftovers, McCain and Cheney types, might be whispering in, the ghosts of those guys might be whispering in the ears of some of our players. So I want to talk about that. But at any rate, Trump quietly creating more American jobs, quietly putting America first, all while sipping on his Coca-Cola. And I love it. So Florida, Louisiana, Texas, congratulations. Sugarcane farmers, congratulations. You're going to be back on top. No more of the Biden era regulations and the Green Deal fantasies. You can get down and farm and harvest the sugarcane, because it will be used, folks. So, all right. Liberals, conservatives, us, you and me. Besides making America fizzy again with real Coke, the Minnesota madness, folks, it's real. There's a takeover in women's sports, or at least there's one that they're attempting. The liberals are to take over women's sports. You know this; it's been in the news long enough. But if the Coke story is not enough to sweeten your mood for the day, this may certainly ruin your mood. We're looking at Kookville taking over, and I'm going to talk you through it in the next block right after the break. Tim Walz and that Supreme Court, Minnesota, a problem for women. I'll be back, ladies and gentlemen, right after the break. Stay with me. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. The Right Side with Doug Billings, dispensing intellectual maturity, and where you become members of the most intellectually mature audience in all of radio land, my friends. Minnesota Kookville, ladies and gentlemen, the Minnesota Supreme Court. Most of its members put there, chosen by, assigned there by the poster man of the wussification of the American male himself, Tim Walz, the most radically liberal governor in the country, some would say. The Minnesota Supreme Court ruling unanimously, mind you, and this, as always, folks, this ties in to wherever you live. This affects us wherever we are, this kind of nonsense. It is absolutely imperative that we take action in our local levels of government, our communities, our counties, where we live, to get involved to prevent the nonsense that we're going to see here and talk about out of Minnesota. So the Minnesota Supreme Court rules unanimously that the United States powerlifting team discriminated against a biological male pretending to be a woman by barring him from the women's division of that sport back in 2018. Yep, you heard it right. In a state run by the abject nonsense of what we see on the radical left, Tim Walz and his Democrat commu-socialist kook hacks, 5 of the 7 justices were appointed by him and the others by his liberal predecessor. I really do hope Mike Lindell runs for governor of Minnesota, and he's thinking about it. I hope he does. I will. In fact, I may give Mike a call this afternoon. I know that he'll come on a lot of shows, but I hope he does. And there's talk of it, but I digress. So Tim Walz, the radical liberal kook fringe in Minnesota, have declared that fairness in sports is somehow discriminatory. I mean, that's what this boils down to. This is pure LBGTQ kook nonsense. And look, I am perfectly able to say, I don't care what your sexual orientation is, but when it comes to the LBGTQ kook mob, that's a problem. They represent, now, I'm not, you have friends who are gay, who are homosexual, whatever, good people, they go to work, they contribute to society, they engage in capitalism. Many of them go to church. Okay, I am not calling for a crucifixion of homosexuals. I am calling for an end to the LBGTQ kook mob movement, a movement that occupies 0.002% of our population. And yet they continually try to do this kind of nonsense and to hold it up when it happens. Sacrificing Title IX, sacrificing women's safety, and denying basic biology. All on the altar of 0.0002% of the feelings that belong to those people. So I'll break it down for you because the fake news isn't going to do it. So the character in play here, J.C. Cooper, who was born a man. He is still a man. He will die a man. If in 300 years archaeologists find his bones somewhere, they will have discovered the bones of a man, ladies and gentlemen. But he, in the current day and in the current state of his mind, he is identifying as a woman. Still a man. And he sued the United States Powerlifting Association for rejecting his entry into the women's competition. Okay? The organization has a policy about this, and it's a very simple policy, fairly straightforward. I'll read it to you. No biological males are to be in women's divisions because science says men have a profound physical advantage. Their bones are denser, muscular, stronger, testosterone-fueled power that doesn't vanish with a wardrobe change, ladies and gentlemen. It also doesn't vanish with saline body part implants. It doesn't vanish with hormone injections. You're still a man. Those are my words, not the Powerlifting Association. But they have a policy against this, obviously. But the courts, I mean, the courts call it a facially discriminatory policy, slapping it all down. And the courts, in essence, the Democrat, Communist, Socialist, they can never fully escape the shadows of their past, can they? The KKK, slavery, nonsense, enslaving women in this instance to the threat of real harm, and basic unfairness. So in Minnesota, we have Chief Justice Natalie Hudson. Chief Justice Hudson, I've never seen her. I didn't want to look her up. I simply read this story online as I was doing show research. I can only imagine what she must look like. But Chief Justice Natalie Hudson, a Walz appointee, wrote that there's no genius issue here. It was motivated by trans status. Okay, I'm not even clear what that means. She's coming down. She's basically saying there is no agenda here. It is dismissed. This case is upheld. You are discriminatory, and I rule in this guy's favor. So let him go to the bathroom with the ladies. I mean, that's basically what the ruling is. So they kicked it back to a lower court on whether powerlifting is a legitimate business purpose. Really? I mean, you can't make this stuff up. So give me a break. From our perch upon the MAGA high ground, this is Exhibit Z in a whack job, in a whack kookville movement of the left that continues their attack, their anti-women agenda. And they're not talking about rights here for these trans people. They're talking about the erasure of the divisions in the basic biology between the sexes, between the genders. It really is part of their agenda. So think about this. Women, real women, fought tooth and nail for Title IX in 1972 so that girls could compete without boys crashing the party here. And now liberals, yielding to the 0.0002% of the LGBTQ kook lobby, are letting guys in dresses dominate deadlifts, dominate swimming pools, and enter into the restrooms and changing rooms. You name it. Let them in. Let them do it. Remember Leah Thomas? Another beauty, another man. The swimmer who went from, just being a really low-performing dude to a record-smashing chick overnight. Remember? Yeah, that's real fair. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll come back, pick up on this and much more. You're where you need to be. Come back. I'll be here. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen, we may well be. And by the way, Doug Billings here with you, the Real Talk Radio Network, where you become part of the most intellectually mature audience in all of Radioland. I was just made aware that a friend of mine, haven't spoken to Gary in a few years, maybe a couple, but Gary Stewart, somewhere out there in Radioland listening. Gary Stewart. Thank you, Gary. Good to know that you're out there. I appreciate you. Folks, I don't get anything other than saying hi to an old friend, Stewart, Steuart, Stewart Laboratories. Check his stuff out. Gary's one of the patriots who I met when I did my Determined Patriotism conferences, and I still do those. We've got to do another one. Yeah, ever since I've been here at Real Talk, I need to talk with Tracy and Rick. We'll see if we can get a Determined Patriotism conference set up. I did them in Branson. I love Branson, Missouri, the middle of the country, beautiful. We did them during Christmas time. Just beautiful down there. I'm digressing. Let's get back to it. The Kookville mob up in Minnesota, the powerlifting, United States powerlifting team being forced to potentially, this is going to go to the Supreme Court, but potentially having to deal with a man posing as a woman who wants to powerlift with the ladies. Okay. So the USA powerlifting team organization had a response, and they are spot on in this, folks. And I'll just read it to you. It's not very long. They created an open division. What they did is and this is what I've been saying for the past 5 years. For the past 5 years, these kooks are entitled to and ought to be encouraged. Why don't these trans-dressing men who want to be women and women who want to be men, why don't they just form their own sports league? And that's what the powerlifting organization has suggested. And they had tried to help them do it. They created an open trans division. They did this in 2021. They call it for trans and non-binary folks. Non-binary folks. I mean, it's a term from Kookville, but that's what they used. So inclusion without invasion, right? You can be included in the sport. Here's your league. Here's here's the platform. Go for it. That way you don't have to invade the space of real women. Again, I've been saying it since 2021 when I came on the air with The Right Side. Let the trans community have their own league in any sport they want. Let them promote it. Let them engage in capitalism to do so. See if there's a market for it. But stop declaring war on biological women and their sports. I mean, the U.S. powerlifting team was even welcoming in transgendered referees everywhere. But all of this is not enough for the radicals. Not enough. They want full access to women's spaces. Fairness be damned. And so, yes, this will get appealed to the Supreme Court. You better believe it is. And with our 6-3 conservative court in place, we've got Roberts, Thomas, Alito, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, Barrett, ready to torch this nonsense. And yes, I'm convinced every one of the conservatives will torch it. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's, maybe not in this group. I was going to say maybe there'd be a common sense justice, but no, not this group. So, raw biology, pure science, rejected by the party who would have dared to thrust their science, their fake science, and the effects and the value of the mask and this untested jab on us, right? Remember? I'm sure you do. So, Trump and his administration have already promised that they're going to enforce Title IX to protect girls and women's sports. And so now that he's back in the Oval Office, you can better believe Pam Bondi, the entire Department of Justice, is going to put the heat on states like Minnesota, and they're going to make sure that states that want to push this kind of nonsense are dealt with. So, folks, liberals are not pro-equality. They are anti-American, anti-woman, warriors for Kookville, for the weirdest 0.0002% of our population. They're so obsessed with inclusivity that they exclude half of the population from their own sports leagues. And so Minnesota's Republican Party is right when they blast all about this. They have a House Speaker out there in the Republican Party in Minnesota, Lisa DeMuth, who nailed it. This marks another setback in the fight to protect girls' sports. She said it. And it's obvious. I mean, it's so obviously simple. Safety and fairness? No. Not when virtue points are on the line for the left. So, folks, again, as I always say, call your representatives, get involved in your communities. This is the kind of nonsense we've got to demand that we ban this kind of insanity. Women deserve better than to be liberal lab rats as we watch the experimentation of the few in the trans movement pervade the majority. And speaking of the kook mob, in the middle of all of that is probably a surprising spark of reason, of common sense. Fetterman, a flicker of sanity in the middle of the Democratic Communist Socialist Kookville mob. The stroke victim who's smarter than the entire Democratic clown car that we're watching. I mean, the radical liberal movement is a party and an organization with an agenda, with politics, platforms, and policies that have devolved into a commu-socialist cult, a combination of communism and socialism. That's why I call them the commu-socialist party. You would think that finding a voice of reason over there would require some sort of a, you know, some sort of an event, a major search, a prayer movement, a miracle. Well, enter Senator John Fetterman from Pennsylvania, the hoodie-wearing stroke survivor who's suddenly the last sane man, apparently, in the asylum over there. On Hannity the other night, Fetterman was on there. He dropped a bombshell, and this sent shockwaves. And often enough, these kind of things don't get enough attention. You're certainly not going to hear the MSNBC and the CNN crowd talk about this because he's attacking his party. He's ditching the party shutdown suicide pact, and he's voting to reopen the government, even if it cost him the progressive votes and erodes a little bit of his base. He said, I am always going to vote country over my party. And if he said, if I pay a price with my base, that's something I'm willing to do. Amen, brother. And we need people on our side too, folks, to have that approach, by the way. But even a broken clock is right twice a day, right? And Fetterman's ticking louder than the rest of these gooks over on the radical left. The context of this, the shutdown is in week 4. The longest in history, with Schumer and the squad holding us and the economy hostage just because they don't like Trump. There is no other reason of substance behind the shutdown other than that. Trump derangement syndrome. And Fetterman's one of just 2 Democrats who are bucking the blue wall and slamming the chaos as a failure. He said that on X the other day. And you know what? Other than the Real Talk Radio Network, X has become a place that you can really get interesting pieces and tidbits of news. And you can find, in many cases, here on Real Talk Radio, every show, every host provides you the pulse of what's going on in America. In Missouri, Kansas, the Midwest, and every place between the two shining sea shores. But why? So it begs the question, why Fetterman? Why doing this? Because they know, Fetterman, like us, we can realize that real people may suffer as a result of the shutdown. Now, I want it to remain closed. I want the Republicans to remain strong in this. You know, there are 42 million people on SNAP who need food assistance, and we can make arrangements to make sure they're taken care of. Millions of people, talking about Fetterman, millions of people in Pennsylvania facing food insecurity as their benefits may get axed, right? I refuse to vote to suspend SNAP, Fetterman said. I can't ever vote for that kind of mass food insecurity. So he's got common sense. He understands what the radical left, the Trump derangement syndrome crowd is holding hostage here, the people. And get this, he's not just doing that, talking about the shutdown. He's also torching his own party's fascist fever, right? Refusing to call Trump a Hitler, refusing to call him a Nazi. And he calls it out and he says what it is. He says extreme rhetoric makes it easier for extreme actions. He's exactly right. And then he says something that's very important. This is all, by the way, I'm just reading his post on X this morning. But he said that and this is key because, I have been saying this, they are without a rudder over there, no purpose. He said, we've lost the plot. And he's right. It's, from the MAGA perspective, it's hilarious proof that the emperor has not only lost his clothes, he's buck naked. Fetterman's no conservative, folks. He is a Democrat through and through. But even he can't stomach the hypocrisy that's coming from that side. Remember, these clowns ran on killing the filibuster to ram through their wish list of green fantasies, for medical care and other benefits and perks for illegal immigrants. And they love it when it all suits their stall tactics, right? Trump's offering clean continuing resolution bills and short ones, 24 pages, to fund the military, to fund Capitol Police, prioritize. But Schumer is playing shutdown roulette to deny the people's mandate. And that's another angle to this. We voted for President Trump. The majority of people in this country voted for President Trump. So the radical liberals who don't know how to react or to act when faced with adversity, challenge, and tragedy. We saw this in 2016. Remember when Trump beat Hillary? The meltdown, the image of that woman crying, it's just etched in all of our minds. They couldn't believe it. They don't. And then the rock, stones, and bricks begin to be delivered to street corners in downtown suburban blue cities so that they can throw them through storefront windows because they can't deal with not getting their way. So what's going on with a shutdown is just another way to deny the people's mandate. We didn't get our way at the election, so we're going to get our way here, by gosh. I mean, that's what they're doing. To us, it's obvious. Fetterman's breaking the ranks because he's got Pennsylvania grit. Blue-collar folks don't want to play these games. They want paychecks. They want groceries. And so liberals, they would starve kids to score points because they want to hurt Trump at all costs. And the rub, maybe Fetterman is a canary in the coal mine here, right? Stroke or not, he's echoing what we've been screaming here for years. Basic humanity over Bolshevik nonsense. He wants cooperation. He wants decency. We all need each other, is what he said. If more Democrats grew a spine like his, maybe we'd avoid these kinds of messes. But until then, he's the stroke victim who is schooling the socialists over there. And Trump has a victory lap through all of this, and it's priceless. I mean, they are so desperate. It's from their playbook. They want to deny Trump any kind of victory. He is having so much victory that they are in shell shock. They don't know what to do. They're clearly not reflecting. All right, ladies and gentlemen, up against another break as we begin to, wow, time flies, wrap up hour one. Stay with me. I'll be back right after the break. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. The Right Side with Doug Billings. You have found the place where you need to be, dispensing truth. We all stand together, folks. You and I say it all the time. We are in this thing together. We stand shoulder to shoulder, trying to recover the republic from the grip of the radical liberal movement. And this whole deal, you know, the radical liberal movement, many of you who are aware and awake have certainly heard of a guy by the name of Saul Alinsky. And so what the radical liberal movement does, he wrote the book Rules for Radicals, one of Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama's idols. But this is Saul Alinsky 101, what we're watching the radical liberal movement do. I harp on this I don't mention Saul Alinsky's name every day, but certainly when I talk about how the radical liberal movement in America wants to cascade chaos upon us, that's Saul Alinsky 101. Straight from the Communist Socialist dog-eared playbook that they use often. Deny, disrupt, destroy. And you saw part of that during it. They've been doing it since well before FDR, mind you, okay? For about 180 years, the radical liberal socialist movement in this country, beginning with three men who actually engaged in capitalism to a great degree and became incredibly wealthy. John Rockefeller, John Dewey, Andrew Carnegie. All three of them avowed socialists. And that's not my opinion. For those of you watching the program, I'm holding up the book, Socialism Under the Microscope. It's written by Rodney Brown and Paul Williams. I recommend that you get it. They talk about this kind of thing in the background. The backdrop is 190 years old here. So Although we see this blowing up in 2020 with the theft of an American presidential election, this has been going on for a long time. Dewey, Rockefeller, and Carnegie wanted a socialist America, no doubt about it. It's beyond debate, proven by their own words, their own writings. Okay? Yes, they engaged in capitalism, of course. Like all members of the hierarchy and the elite, they will use that which benefits them while refusing to give that to us. So they are in there. They take over the educational institutions of America with their liberal curriculum. And we begin, quite literally, even back then, to begin to talk about trans issues, about homosexuality, about a various degree of other topics that the founding fathers had no intent of allowing into public schools. And at the same time, diminishing Christianity, diminishing the Bible, diminishing the intent of the founding fathers. So they're all doing this. The radical left: deny, disrupt, and destroy. And I was going to say that President Obama was the first president to actually say it out loud. Remember, talked a little bit about this week. The mantra that they were hoping would be just a friendly sounding campaign slogan: Build Back Better. Saul Alinsky, remember, in his book, literally writes about deny, disrupt, destroy. Build Back Better emphasizes something that's left out of the public version of that mantra, but is included in what they talk about behind the scenes. And the first words are destroy, then build back better. And they mean build back better in their liberal image. And it's in full force. And so the hierarchy of the radical liberal movement gives orders, literally, to their minions in the elected class and in the media about what to talk about, what to cover, the talking points. 22 days into this shutdown, we're going on a month, the longest full shutdown ever. And Chuck Schumer, grinning like the Grinch who stole Christmas bonuses. And why? Because the radical hierarchy, the liberal hierarchy, have given orders that we must kneecap President Trump, paint him as the villain, rain down chaos. They don't like the fact that Trump has gotten rid of almost 1 million bureaucrats in the federal government, contractors and employees and folks. They don't like that. The people that want to stay and work from home in their pajamas and do laundry rather than go to work. It's not ultimately about budgets. It's not about people for the radical left. It's not about office necessarily. Well, I guess to a degree, because ultimately what they're worried about is ballots. Let's just put it that way. Liberals follow their script like it's the gospel. Remember back in 2018 and 19, the same kind of shutdown circus went on then. Block the wall. We cannot have the wall. We will not give Trump anything he wants. Resist. History rhymes, folks, and it stinks. That's the same thing they're doing today. And when you peel back the layers, Trump is offering bipartisan continuing resolutions. Fund the military first, secure the border, keep SNAP funds flowing. Sensible stuff. And then come back and let's talk about the rest. Let's negotiate. Let's talk about your wish list items, Democrats. I mean, it really is this fundamental. The Democrats filibuster everything. They're demanding amnesty riders, green pork for their projects. Oh, they got midterms coming up. I don't know. Unless it's theft, I don't know how they win another election in a red state, at least. You know, when Fetterman calls it a failure from the radical left, he's right. But folks, this is an engineered failure. It's not an accidental failure. They're doing this on purpose. Looming snap cuts are out there, and that's the hook. Guilt trip middle America into blaming Trump for all of these Democrat delays. And to my knowledge, and as I look at the state of play in America, it is not working. It's a boomerang, and it's backfiring big time. Extreme rhetoric, Fetterman calls the radical left mantras. And he's nailed that too. Calling President Trump a fascist isn't a debate. It isn't rational. It's dynamite. And they do it on purpose. And they tell their minions on X, all of the talking heads, the influencers over on X who are liberal, who have substantial followings, they're all given orders. And the same is true for your television set when you're watching CNBC, ABC, NBC, CBS, all of it. Liberals have lost the plot. They have no rudder. When they after 2020, their big victory, right? And now they're burning the theater down rather than hand Trump the win that he earned at the ballot box during the elections. And so we do have the moral higher ground, ladies and gentlemen. This is crystal clear. What they're doing, the radical left, again, it's anti-American to the core. Evidence of the obvious is sufficient. Schumer's Senate still clinging to power, or at least trying to, yielding to the squad, the radicals who again prioritize that 0.0002%, whose fever dreams and fantasies of a myth called transgenderism, that's right, it's not real, it's a mental disorder, putting that over the wishes of 330 million Americans. That's what it is. It's chaos as currency. Hurt the economy, spike inflation, make everybody be afraid, cause chaos along the way. Let's hope riots break out. Tee up 2026. Trump broke it. Those are the orders that go out, and the people on the streets carry them out. The No King's March was nothing more than a temper tantrum because they look at what Trump is winning, and they have to act out, and they're paid to do it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, top of the hour. Hour number 1 finished and in the can, as we say. I'll be back after the top of the hour break. Don't go anywhere, because if you do, the liberals win. I'll be right back. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Hour 2 of dispensing intellectual maturity to the world. Thank you very much indeed for being here with us on the Real Talk Radio Network. I appreciate you being here. The phone lines are open. If you care to call and get in on the conversation, 636-224-6300, if you would like to. Otherwise, let's plow ahead here and look at the state of play. I was talking about, the Saul Alinsky playbook of radical liberalism, what they do, how they shut it down, how do they cause chaos, why it's purposeful, how it began. Trump denies this entire thing their oxygen, and it's just so much fun to watch. And when liberals don't get their way, the government shutdowns expose them. That's what Ronald Reagan warned us about. Reagan said, watch, when the shutdowns occur, you'll be able to see the exposed bloat, and you'll be wanting then to force real cuts that make a difference into this bloated federal government. Something which the founding fathers had no intention at all of having a government that is so bloated. So this particular, with regards to that, exposing bloat, showing what the real agenda is, this particular shutdown is highlighting the Democrat desperation. The Tim Walz crew up in Minnesota proved it with that transgender ruling that I talked about in the first hour. It's the same vibe. Sacrifice normalcy for the fringe. Give the kook fringe a voice and pretend as if it's the majority. Let them and the kooks begin to take over. And all of a sudden, our dialogue changes in America. Look at what we're talking about, right? With the radical left liberal movement. The things that we're talking, the transgender topic, just to name one, it's a myth. It doesn't exist. There's no such thing as someone being transgender. That is a mental disorder. You have two genders. You're either one of them or the other. No, I was thinking, do I back out? Do I have, no, that's the truth. It is the truth. Now, what you won't hear on MSNBC about the shutdown, I hinted at this right before the break. It is a boomerang, and it's going to come back. If it already is coming back to swat these guys in the head. The polls are showing that independent voters in this country are siding with President Trump on reopening. And Fetterman's defection about all that, it shows that there are cracks in the blue facade that the liberals attempt to put up. It doesn't crack often, but there is that with Fetterman being very evident. Trump's team is trying to get these continuing resolution votes passed. They leak them on purpose because they want the public to see what's in them for good reason. And Speaker Johnson has press conferences discussing those things. The Democrats don't have open ballots. They block their ballots from public view. They continue to shut down, catering to the vast minority of people. So the liberals aren't governing, folks. They're grieving the mandate they lost in the presidential election. That's what this is. How do we get the mandate that we want through the gate? We didn't win the election, so this is what they do. By Christmas time, Trump is going to be the hero. Schumer is going to be Scrooge. America wins when we reject liberal chaos, and more people are doing that every day in America. Every day. I want to also go a little bit global and local, exposing a few of the deep state gaps as I see them across the country. And before I begin with what I'm about to tell you and talk with you about, I trust President Trump. I hold my opinion on certain members of his administration until we get a fuller picture. And I'm going to discuss something right now that in no way diminishes my respect for our president. It's, if I was one of his advisors, I would be talking about this with him, in fact. So we still, on our side of the aisle, this rhino problem and so forth, within that subclass of our party, we have neocons, neoconservatives pushing the war machine, the Dick Cheneys of the world, whispering and continue to try to push endeavors and initiatives that suit them and their donors. It's real. It's the truth. It's honest. That's all what I'm about. And I'm just wondering out loud with you here if Venezuela could be the beginnings of a war that these neocons want to cause. And I'm wondering if that would hurt Trump's wins and victories as we've seen them. Again, trying to be an advisor to the president, who I respect immensely and who I trust implicitly. So this is a warning shot, really. Not at one of our own, but at the swamp and at their sneaky playbook that is still out there. So while Schumer's shutdown attempts to, and maybe even in fact starving families, we've got the Beltway warhawks out there in D.C. itching to get back in the game and to be relevant again, to have something happen, to burn your tax dollars on some sort of a new adventure of theirs. And I'm wondering if taking down Venezuela's socialist thug, Nicolas Maduro, is one of those avenues that they could get their way. Now, before you think anything, hear me out on this. I'm not throwing shade at Trump's team, not at all. I'm trying to shine a light on a possible trap that could turn all of the wins that we've seen at the border into a Bush-style blunder. The organization, the American Conservative, dropped what some are considering to be a bombshell last week. Trump eyeing Maduro's ouster. Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, leading the charge and all of that. Now, Rubio is a patriot in my some of you may want to debate that, whatever, but I think that he's a Trump loyalist. But he has friends, neocon buddies, that might be whispering the wrong game plan here. And again, to be clear with you, my listeners, the people that are following along, I'm not saying Rubio is deep state, not even suggesting it. Y'all leave that fodder for you all to talk about. I think he's a fighter for freedom. I think he wants to crush communism and communists like Maduro. And Trump is trusting him to deliver. And I trust Trump. But here's what I am doing. I am trying to raise a cautionary flag here about the neocon ghosts, McCain and the guy who's, a member of Cheney. They've haunted D.C. forever, and they want to drag Trump into their endless war swamp. Back when McCain was with us, Cheney, of course, we all know. Venezuela, it's a dumpster fire. Hyperinflation at 1,000%. Starvation. You've got Maduro with his narco goons running wild, running rampant. I said it earlier in the week. Marco is nothing more than Tony Montana from Scarface on steroids and cocaine. Millions of Venezuelans fled north to our country during Administrator Biden and Vice Pretender Harris's reign. 300,000 Venezuelans slamming in to our border. Criminals, emptying their prisons, sending them all up here. So Trump's plan that I believe in, starve the Maduro regime. Cut it off. Secure the Rio Grande, yes, genius. Secure the oceans, secure the waterways, stop the traffic of drugs, which stops his revenue. But the swamp, I think they just push a riskier play. I think, I don't want the whispers of the swamp and the neocons to come back, because they're talking in some of these circles, regime change, boots on the ground, and, the word coalition that smells to me like Iraq in 2003. And why this hits home for us in MAGA, whether you're in Missouri or Montana, we want to avoid that. And again, the American conservative is warning that Rubio's hawkish crew, his buddies, and not Rubio himself, but the neocon members that sometimes are in that circle, the old guard advisors, circling him like vultures waiting for a deep state neocon opportunity, want sanctions and airstrikes. There's already 10,000 troops in that vicinity on ships and aircraft and so forth. I'll continue when we get back, ladies and gentlemen. The first break of the second hour upon us. Don't go away. I'll be right back. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Doug Billings with you on The Right Side. Thank you very much indeed for being with us today. And thank you, Clem, for pointing out some very tragic news. I just want to very briefly, ladies and gentlemen, please offer your prayers up for Darren Bailey, the Republican candidate in Illinois for governor. Last night, he lost his son, Zachary, and his daughter-in-law, Kelsey, and two of their grandchildren, ages 12 and 7, in a helicopter crash in Montana yesterday evening. Just very, very tragic. Please send up a prayer for Mr. Bailey, his family, and for all of the ones who are involved and touched by that tragedy. Very sad. Thank you, Clem, for letting me be aware of that. As I was prepping for today and had my head down and looking for the show, the prep here, I didn't see that particular story. So thank you for pointing it out. That's what we're all about, ladies and gentlemen. We have each other's back. We are in this thing together. A prayer for Mr. Bailey as we go forward today. So my warning about Rubio, the neocon movement is still alive and well in Washington. We have not yet fully rooted that out and exorcised those demons from our country. But we need to be aware. So Rubio, I'm not, again, just to reiterate, not casting any shade on Rubio, but I don't trust the deep state. I don't trust the neocons, who I know are still out there. So in Venezuela, we're having this massive buildup. We've already got approval, Trump did, to put a CIA covert operation in place on the ground in Venezuela, in their country. So that's going on. Obviously, we don't know any specific details yet about that secret operation. But the buildup down there, 10,000 troops. Now, the 10,000 troops are not on the ground, and that's not enough to have an invasion on land. You would need much more than that. But they are the 10,000 on various ships at sea, aircraft, and so forth. And I just think the old guard, obviously, whispering, circling the president, circling Rubio, sanctions, airstrikes, 10,000 troops. Does it sound familiar to you like it does to me? Libya, Syria, Afghanistan. Trillions of dollars down the drain, more refuge than a UN sob story, and zero wins for those of us on Main Street. Now, Trump is different. He is the Abraham Accords guy, the peace through strength guy, who nobody sandbags. Nobody gets the upper hand. The deportation machine that he's got in place, already setting records. On pace to have 600,000 deportations by Christmas, by the end of the year. 12,000 a month or so. That's just ICE. That doesn't even count the thousands upon thousands that Kristi Noem and the Department of Homeland Security are rounding up. But why would the neocons want to risk a war when tariffs and oil squeezes can choke out Maduro? That's the question, and that's a product of us being awake. Many of us would have never thought to ask those questions prior to 2020. I wouldn't. Let me just speak for myself. I wouldn't have. But after you see and you reflect and you look back with hindsight, having been awoken to the abject corruption that has been filtrated through our government on both sides, it makes you wonder, or at least it makes me wonder. And so the deep state cut that you're not going to get from your Sunday talking heads programs on television, we clearly need a stable and a free Venezuela. I just wonder if the neocons in D.C. are planning to try to kneecap Trump's second term here that we're all enjoying right now. Call them the war party, the neocons, the one who want the industrial machine, the war, the industrial complex, all of it. They want it. They need it. Fuels, in their view, it fuels our economy. We need it. But no more forever wars, folks. We've got to be on guard against all of that. I trust Trump, not casting shade on Rubio, simply saying, let's be aware. And the neocons, they're salivating for a quagmire to come up, something that will give them the reason to go in. Weapons of mass destruction. Remember? Picture the headlines. Trump's Venezuela mess. Trump goes in. Well, right. That's not us. That's the neocons. And the left is already playing both sides of the issue. AOC out there crying, it's imperialism. We shouldn't be down there at all. But she stays quiet on the gulags that Maduro has set up in Venezuela. And for anybody who questions him, oh yeah, gulags. Classic commune socialist hypocrisy. Yeah, they'll cheer our boys going into the jungles, but they'll scream when we start to deport their voters who they had let in under Biden and Harris. And so the MAGA take on all of this has got to be, I think, that Trump's border wins are proof that we can fix this without firing a shot. Slap 50% or more tariffs on Venezuelan oil. Arm twist OPEC to crash their economy. Let Maduro's cronies begin then to turn on him. Target his drug boats like we've been doing. Blow their economy out of the water, literally. I think Rubio's heart is in the right place. Crush socialism. But he has got to be smart enough and politically savvy enough to dodge the swamp's trap if, in fact, they're setting one here. So if I were advising the president, these are some of the things I would be mentioning to him and to Marco Rubio. I'm sounding the alarm not to bash our team, but to keep Trump's mandates pure. Okay, let's not conflate them. Let's not contaminate them with neocon wish lists of forever wars and conflicts that we don't need to get into. America first. We are not an ATM for the rest of the world. And it ties to the shutdown. The Democrats are blocking the continuing resolutions to hurt Trump at home, and neocons push the wars to try to hurt him abroad. The same anti-American game being played in two different places. And the unique angle that I'm going to give you, the red state governors like Abbott and DeSantis, they're already countering all of this, supporting ICE, DHS, deportations, right? That's the real fight. That's what we've got to stay focused on, not what's going on in Caracas. Now, we can stabilize Venezuela, again, without the neocon methods and procedures. My point, all right? Trump's instincts are golden, ladies and gentlemen. Let's keep focused on that. All right, another break. I'll be back right here. Stay with me. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Time flies when you're having fun. My goodness, I love you people. Thanks for being here with me today. Real Talk Radio Network, Doug Billings and The Right Side. Okay, so we dissected a bit of the deal going on in Venezuela. I gave a fair warning. Just be on the lookout for the neocons and so forth. With Trump and with his administration, we know. Look, and I, again, got a picture of Trump and me right here at Mar-a-Lago on my desk for those of you watching the program. Been down there 3 times with the president. Love the guy. Think he's on the right track. And I'm a big fan of what's going on. I point this out because we all need to be vigilant. We need to be ready. We need to be sure of so many things. And if you think that January 6th, for example, was the deep state's dirtiest trick, hold on to your hats, because we have all learned a lot about the FBI of Comey, the FBI of Brennan. They were coming for you, those two gentlemen, right in your own backyard, and sometimes quite literally. A group called Anonymous Conservatives have put out there a scoop that is right off of the wire, and I want to bring it up to you, good people. It rips the curtain off what the FBI was. Now, again, like I said with Rubio in the last segment, I will say this about Kash Patel. I have never met Marco Rubio. Okay, I've never met him in person. I have met Kash Patel several times in person. We have spoken on the same stage together. He's been on my show several times. The FBI had morphed into the American Stasi, spying on Trump supporters like you and me. Okay, drones over your backyard barbecue, informants snooping on your X posts, Facebook posts, tailing your little kid, your kids' little league games. And I'm not making that up. Those are straight out of the headlines of the Comey and Brennan FBI. Now, this is not a Tom Clancy novel. This is real life. This is October 2025. And the swamp is terrified of us. And they are terrified of our votes. All right. So this, again, all of this relates. The entire show relates to this. They're afraid of us because of our vote. And they want as many votes as they can get. Open borders, new electoral base. Give them the right to vote. Give them free stuff so they stay here. Okay. This is laying it bare, and you're not going to hear this on the lamestream media. So let me dig into the cesspool here. And again, just like I said, I know Kash. He does a lot of good work. A lot of this takes patience. Far too many of us demand immediate results, right? And we know that the American justice system is designed to not take speedy courses. It's meant to be prudent. And so we all have to pray for that virtue of patience. All right. And wisdom, by the way, with a capital W, wisdom from the Holy Spirit, because we need that in order to have discernment with regards to what's going on. Okay. But you don't clean up a decades-long infestation of the FBI in 7 months. And another thing that I'll remind you about, far too many influencers out there on social media clamoring about retribution and revenge. You know, folks, that's, again, we're not the conservative. That's not a conservative mantra. That's a mantra from people who aren't thinking clearly. We don't seek retribution. We don't seek revenge. That would be the same kind of tyranny that they tried to cast upon us. You do not solve tyranny with tyranny. We want justice. We want accountability. And we have to have patience as we pursue it. So I'm telling you, Kash Patel has not had time to do everything that we want. Now, he's making some progress. And I trust Don Bongino. I have never met him. I've met Kash. I trust Kash. I don't think Kash is capable of lying and putting up an intricate, deep state trick. We all watch with a degree of, trust but verify. Thank you, President Reagan. But after Trump's 2024 landslide, the FBI did not shelf their January 6th playbook. In many ways, they went full KGB on us. So the American conservative, as I was saying, it has dropped some instances where they are citing whistleblower leaks. And among those are claims like this one, a 300% spike in domestic surveillance budgets since 2020, targeting who they call, quote unquote, extremists. And, for those of you who may not know, extremists is code word for anyone who wants to build the wall, or anyone who has a Trump flag, anyone who's Catholic and supports the right to life. Extremists. That's what we've been experiencing. So they were logging your church visits. They were flagging your 1776 memes. They were tracking your gun show receipts. Oh, yeah. One report put out that 1,200 Americans were what they call red tagged for posting pro-border rants on X. Sound like your Republican Dave who was happy that the border was shut down? Yep, they're watching him too. So tell Cousin Dave to be careful. The deep state is vast. It's organized. It's been in place for a long time. And Kash Patel and Don Bongino are fixing it. I'm positive of that. But the huge bureaucracy that they face is still in action. And it will take some time to completely purge that. So the exclusives that you don't get in the mainstream media is that this is not just for feds. The deep state was outsourcing all of this or some of this to big tech groups. And this will ring a bell with you. This is not necessarily new news. Google, Amazon, Facebook, even your thermostat in your hallway, your brand new smart thermostat that you're so proud of and that you love so much. Gathering information from all of these things, the deep state. Did you ever get, like me, I mean, I don't know how many of you have a robust social media presence, but did you ever get the feeling you were shadow banned on Facebook or X after you put up that really good, spicy and great, passionate Second Amendment post? That was the FBI's digital Stasi. They're cross-referencing you like it was in their databases. Remember, that's why you get the ads that you see. Wow, I was just thinking about that. I didn't even post that I wanted to get some sheets from Mike Lindell and MyPillow, but all of a sudden, here it is. Or I didn't even think about getting, milkweed seeds on Amazon, whatever. But here they are now popping up on my feed. That's because they track us. All right. They label it as, we just want to make sure that we understand your needs and can better meet them. The anonymous conservative found that a 2025 memo that had declared and said over 1,000 Americans were flagged for disinformation And this is since Trump has been in office. From the FBI, who is deeply corrupt, half tied to the anti-mask people out there, like me. I've never been in favor of the mask. Like you, we all know it was a joke. It's pure political signaling, has nothing to do with our health. Or if you're a pro-gun guy like me, Second Amendment guy, flagging us, okay? Still happening. And get this, they're embedding agents. This is really, now this will either make you laugh or get just really angry. Embedding agents in your neighborhood's HOA meetings, homeowners associations, in case you're from Raytown, Missouri, posing as concerned neighbors, trying to get information. Folks, your cul-de-sac is now East Germany. Be careful. Make sure you have your papers. And when we look at it through the MAGA lens, it's tyranny with a badge. Now, the liberals will claim all day about insurrection and ignore the fact that they were embedded in that. Liberals, members of the FBI, Capitol Police who were on the take, all embedded at that J6 event, causing the riots and the violence. Justify turning your suburb into a surveillance state, what they're up to. Now, just to circle back, not cash. This is not on cash. This is what the bureaucracy is about. And it's what Reagan said during the shutdown. You'll begin to see these things because everybody else the presidency has a little bit more power to reveal things, and things begin to slowly bubble to the surface, maybe quickly bubble to the surface during a shutdown. Remember Comey? Of course you do. And the Russia hoax? Of course you do. It's the same crew with upgraded technology. They couldn't rig 2024, so they're trying to rig your privacy. Kash Patel will gut the FBI, just like a Thanksgiving turkey. He will, and he is. He's going to defund the spies. He's going to ground the drones and fire these weasels. He's already fired a lot who are cozying up or who were to Zuckerberg and so forth. So the left's cheering the Gestapo garbage while they gaslight and project the exact same thing on us. Classic liberalism with radical twists. Classic. And it all ties back to what we talked about in the first hour. The feds furlough park rangers, but they keep the spy budgets flowing. Priorities, after all, right, folks? Of course. And I look at it uniquely. You know, people forget sometimes the power, the constitutional power that sheriffs have. A lot of really good sheriffs out there fighting back on this. And you're not going to hear this on the mainstream, but in red counties from Texas to Idaho, sheriffs and their deputies are blocking FBI access. The corrupt FBI access, citing the Fourth Amendment. You're violating our Fourth Amendment. Go back. I read about a sheriff in Montana this morning who told agents to get a warrant or to get lost. That's the kind of guts sheriffs need to have, and that's the kind of power they do have when they decide they want to use it. Look for the red conservative sheriffs to be doing those things. And I'm not casting shade again on Kash or Don. I'm simply saying this is a big problem. And I want you all to be awake. I want you to know what continues to go on. This is patriot spirit. This is determined patriotism. And the kicker is using open source tools. You've got MAGA people. I love it. It makes me laugh because these are the patriots that I get a kick out of watching. They get out there and they see these drones and they jam their signals. Open source tools on the internet. They're using them to jam the drones. It's hilarious on a few levels, at least for me. All right. I hear it. I hear the music. All right. I'll be back, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go away. Be with me here when I return. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am just sitting here during the break, thumbing through an excellent book that you should all try to find and look it up on Amazon. Remaking the American Political System. Remaking. Happens to be a book that yours truly wrote with my friend Mike Beeler. In fact, I couldn't have done it without Mike and his help. And he reminds me that on page 175, that we get a definition of what the deep state is. And this is, I think, one of the key elements of an American people that become awake to the system that they themselves need to reform. This government, this system that we have in our republic, God bless it. Thank you, founding fathers. Thank you, Providence, for revealing the rubrics, the setup, the inspiration behind what this republic is. Thank you. But the plan to keep the republic does not rest in the hands of those in the government. It rests in we the people. It rests with us. And so in the book, Remaking the American Political System, you can get it on Amazon. It talks us through a lot of the things that we need to be aware of and how we reclaim our government, how we reclaim the republic. So I defined the deep state as the men and women who have had a one world government perspective. They're embedded deeply in both political parties, universities, global corporations, and Washington, D.C. Think titles as consulates, party leaders, professors, CEOs, senior fellows. They hail from military academies or the Ivy League and have green pointed treasonous powers and ideals. Ladies and gentlemen, I won't bore you with reading the book, but that is it. That's the deep state. They are everywhere, and they have infiltrated almost every aspect of our life and our republic, and they are out there. And they are the ones that we have been talking about. I've been talking about. It all relates to the topics in today's show. In fact, all of this, to a degree, it relates to almost everything that I ever talk about. We are facing the deep state. That is the issue at hand. Thank you, Mike Beeler, for pointing that out to me during the break. And yes, folks, I do think it's a good book. I think it's a good reminder of what we need to be looking for as we endeavor to reclaim the republic. Okay. All right. So as I begin then to finish up our excursion here today into determined patriotism and intellectual maturity, I want to remind you, and by the way, I do take, maybe with too much pleasure, I do like when I see the radical left machines out there begin to fail. CNN is not going to be with us much longer, folks. The high temple of the commu-socialist lies crumbling faster than a Biden teleprompter out there. And I used to, back in the heyday when I was at the height of the YouTube channel, before they canceled me, and don't forget, they gave it back. I got a letter 2 weeks ago. We canceled your channel in error, Mr. Billings. So I'm back on YouTube as well. Don't forget, follow me over there. Welcome to the Right Side, the name of the channel. But I used to get ratings that were higher on certain days than CNN. But I was quick to remind people that don't worry, that's nothing. That's nothing really to be proud of, because the Food Channel beats CNN in the ratings. So the National Review, putting out a eulogy for CNN, the ratings have tanked 40% since Trump has come back in. Record lows. Folks, they get under 500,000 viewers a night. I mean, that's in TV land, that is a statistical flop. It's a zero. Food Channel beats them, right? Advertisers jumping ship like rats from a sinking ship. Yes, I know you got it. Jake Tapper whining, can't stand it, doesn't understand. Folks, meanwhile, Trump and his Truth Social platform rising up 200% membership. 30 million people like you and me over there on Truth Social. And if you're not on Truth Social, you should be. X is good. Yes, I'm on X. I'm on Truth Social. It's one way we support not only President Trump and our good friend Devin Nunes. Thank you, Devin, for running Truth Social over there. But it's where we find support and camaraderie for the common good. The lamestream Waterloo moment, folks. What's going on at CNN? The autopsy is here. It is liberalism dying. CNN dying. The cause of death: suicide. They are killing themselves. They have no apparent, at least not that I can notice, no ability to self-reflect on the nonsense that they put forward, continually doubling down on the narratives that drive the audiences away, coddling to that 0.002%, the kook fringe, for whatever reason. Well, there is a reason. They're under orders to do that. And as a result, they're losing. Post-2024 America is ditching CNN like a bad habit. Prime time slots, fewer eyeballs, people leaving, and it's the left's media machine that spent years giving us Russia hoaxes, Hunter's laptop being buried, the story about it, hyping up the impeachment circuses, smeared the Covington kids, called you deplorables, propped up Biden's basement campaign, and now the jig is up. Patriots for their, the number one source of news? X. That's right. Elon Musk and X. You got OANN, One American News Network out there. They're a good group. Shows like this one, I hope the right side is in that mix. And Truth Social's user surge, 30 million and climbing. It's the proverbial middle finger to the radical left movement. Divine justice, maybe so. They're not just losing viewers over there, folks. The radical left is losing the war. We're seeing that across the country, and that's the hope that I want to leave you with. Now, we have a lot of work to do. The deportation situation that we talked about a lot yesterday and a little bit today. Trump has already broken the deportation record set in this country in just 7 months. Folks, he's got 3.5 years left. That's the good news. We stay engaged, we get involved at our local level, and of course you read good pieces of literature, like Remaking the American Political System on Amazon.com. You can go get a copy. Folks, listen, I'm so proud of y'all. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for listening. Please share the program. Share it out. Find me over on YouTube. Welcome to the right side. Take care of yourselves. We're in this thing together. God bless you. For the Republic. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.